Hello, everybody, and thank you all for being here today. My name is Larry Johansson. I'm the proud mayor of the city of Selkirk. I want to start off by honoring the sacredness and the importance of this land and of the ancestors that once walked where we are standing today. The Anishinaabe, the Iniwak, the Dene peoples, the Dakota, the Inuit, the Anishinaabe nations, and the Red River Métis Nation, who paved the way to what is now known as Manitoba, home to all treaty people. Premier Kinew, Ministers Moses and Sala, welcome to Selkirk. It's always great to have you here. And I want to say a big thanks to Godard for hosting us today and to all the workers for taking the time out of their busy day to gather with us. I also want to recognize that we're joined today by Chia Wang, Scott Meany, Adam Parr from Godard, as well as Mike Pulak from the United Steelworkers. I'd also like to take 30 seconds, if I may, to show the love and the respect that the city of Selkirk has for Godard. This is an excerpt from the business section of the City of Selkirk's website. Godard Selkirk facility, originally built in 1907, is a leading North American steel producer. They process over 400,000 tons of scrap automobiles, rail cars, bridges, and more every year to produce some of the cleanest recycled steel in the world. Godard supports over 721 vendors across the province, with many more outside of it, serving as the key player in Western Canada's steel hub. With this impressive capacity, they are Selkirk's largest employer and draw complementary businesses to our city. They work closely with these complementary companies, contributing to competitive advantages, driving economic growth, and forming the foundation of our steel ecosystem. And we're very, very proud of that. Now I'd like to introduce the main event. Manitoba's Premier and our friend, Premier Wab Kinew.
I snuck up on you. Good job. Thanks so much. Thank you, Larry. Good morning, steel workers. Good morning. All right. It's good to be here. And I wanted to say we really appreciate what you do. Obviously, Selkirk is very proud of you. They named the hockey teams after you here in town. But all of Manitoba is proud of the fact that we have a steel industry in this province, headquartered right here in Selkirk, Manitoba. Quiet group today. First time I've ever had that experience in a room full of steel workers, I gotta say. Usually a lot gets said, I'll say that. But maybe I can get things warmed up a little bit by asking a real obvious question. Who here loves this country? Yeah? I love Canada so much because I was a little kid on a reserve, and this country, Canada, gave me the life that I have today. What an amazing opportunity I've been given. And I feel like so many people across this great country from coast to coast to coast feel the same way. Feel proud, feel happy, and feel honored to have the life and the opportunity. Chance to go to school, chance to get a good job, chance to be able to buy your own home here in Manitoba. And so we got to stand up for our way of life, and we have to stand up for the true north, strong and free. And that's what today is all about. And our message, in some ways, is very simple. I'm going to get into all the details here, but our message is real simple. Canada will always be its own independent, sovereign nation. Canada will never be the 51st state. And we're always going to be the first nation of hockey. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to knock on this wooden podium so I don't jinx it, The Stanley Cup is coming back home to Canada this year, and the Winnipeg Jets are going to have one heck of a playoff run. And so to all the steelworkers here, all the Winnipeg Jets fans, Selkirk Steelers fans too, but to all the steelworkers here, I want to commit to you that your government, your provincial government, is going to stand up to protect your jobs and to protect your ability to put food on the table for your families. And today we're going to share some details about how we're going to do that, because there's so much uncertainty right now. There's so much back and forth about what is going on one day to the next, tariffs being put on, tariffs being taken off. We need to have that stability so that you can make plans for your family and you can make plans for your future. And so I'm going to get into the details here in a second, but I want to say not only are we proud of what you do, but our government commits to you that your jobs are going to be here. The Selkirk steel mill is going to be here, and we are going to have a strong steel sector in Manitoba long after Donald Trump leaves office. And so a couple quick notes on some of the steps that we've already taken to help companies like Gerdau and others who are facing the uncertainty of tariffs. We've brought in tax breaks to allow businesses to keep cash on hand so that they can keep direct deposits hitting people's bank accounts, such as yourselves. At the same time, we know that you need a tax break too, to help you keep your head above water, and that's why our Minister of Finance here, Adrian Sala, has brought in a bunch of tax measures to help keep life more affordable. Most significantly, a $1,500 rebate on your property taxes. So you should see that on your property tax bills this year. It's going to go up to a $1,600 rebate next year. And that's so you can keep money in your pocket and, you know, have an extra $50 to do something with your kids at the end of the month, something like that. We also know that more help is needed for businesses along the way. And so Minister Jamie Moses, our Trade and Business Development Minister, today is launching a $1.5 million investment to help businesses in Manitoba be able to plan to operate in this new environment with the Trump tariff tax. And so that $1.5 million is going out the door immediately to help businesses and to help workers be able to respond. This year's budget 2025, also has $200 million in loans and supports made available to Manitoba workers and Manitoba businesses to be able to keep putting food on the table in the face of this unjustified attack by Donald Trump's administration in the U.S. And so our government is coming forward with these loans, with these grants, with these ways to help you each and every month be able to put food on the table, to be able to pay your bills, to keep your head above water, because it's the role of government to help us all work together during difficult times. And so we're going to be there to support. But here's the thing that I know about people who are proud of what they do. I feel this way, and I know probably many people here feel this way in this room. People across Manitoba, instead of getting a grant, would much rather earn their living. Instead of having something handed to them, would much rather go to work, build something, and then sell it to earn their living. And so what can a government do to help on that side, beyond the grants, beyond the loans, beyond the financial assistance? It's this following step that we're sharing publicly here for the first time. Our government has ordered the Manitoba Provincial Civil Service, anytime we build something, anytime we buy something, anytime we acquire a piece of equipment, let's make sure it's Canadian steel that we're purchasing. And we're going to be building a whole heck of a lot. 11 new schools, new personal care homes, new hospitals, new Manitoba hydro investments. And here in Manitoba, yeah, we're going to be buying a lot of front-end loaders and snow grading equipment too, I think, right? Here. Yeah. So there's going to be tons of opportunity for us to use the tax dollars that you invest each and every year to go back out into our local economy here and make sure that we're buying Canadian steel and we're supporting Canadian steel workers, especially Selkirk steel workers. And I also want to say a few words about Canadians in other provinces who are facing a lot of these challenges here. Today we saw, or yesterday rather, we saw announcements about tariffs on the auto sector. And that's going to hurt a lot of workers, just like folks in this room, in provinces like Ontario. And I want to say that our government in Manitoba, we fully support whatever steps the government of Canada has to do to stand up for workers in every single province, whether that's a fisher on the west or east coast who is facing tariffs from China, whether that's an auto worker in Ontario who is facing tariffs from the Trump administration, or whether that's people in our province who are facing a trade war on both fronts. Because our farmers are facing Chinese tariffs at the same time that our steelworkers are facing the Trump tariff tax. And so we need to work together to ensure that, yes, we're pushing back against tariffs on the auto sector, but we also have to make sure that Western Canada and Manitoba are not forgotten. And so your provincial government is going to be leading the way, and we're going to be there every single step to ensure that the government of Canada is doing right by our province and doing right by you as well, too. And I also want to thank the management of Gerdau here for hosting us today, as well as the United Steelworkers. I think it's really, really positive that we're able to talk to management here today. And when we shared this news about we want to make sure that any steel that the government of Manitoba buys, that it's Canadian steel, management indicated to us that we're going to be able to work together and tailor what gets fabricated here at the Selkirk Steel Mill and just have that alignment with what our tax dollars buy here in Manitoba and being able to ensure that there's job supporting economic activity here in the Selkirk region. So I look forward to strengthening that partnership with the management here and of course with the United Steelworkers at the bargaining table. You're going to be able to get a strong wage and a really good pension and strong benefits and protections on health and safety for generations to come. And our government's role is to make sure that the economic conditions for all of that to succeed, for management, for labor, for the frontline workers to all have a good shot at life, that those economic conditions are in place. And so we're going to be here to continue working together. We know that on a given day the Trump administration might change their mind hour to hour, but we will never change our commitment to you. We're going to be there day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out to ensure that we've got your back. And when it comes to leadership at all levels of government, including local leaders like Mayor Larry here, when it comes to people such as yourselves that we're speaking to today, to Manitobans in every corner of this great province, I want to tell you that we're working together. It is true that Manitoba is much smaller than the United States of America. But how is it that you can withstand a challenge facing off against a much bigger adversary? It's by working together. And so our strength really comes from our unity, and it comes from being committed to this great province that we love and this great Canadian country that we're all a part of. So once again, I want to say we're happy to be working together, and on behalf of all the elected officials here today, I want you to know that we work for you. You're the boss, and it's our job to make sure that you can keep coming to work at great places like this one so that you can put food on the table, you can provide for your families, and you can keep building up this great country that we all love so much. Oh, Canada.
So that wraps this the media event up. I'd like to say thank you to the Premier for coming out and the ministers for coming out. And I'd just like to say, when the tariffs were being kind of bantered about and you know, we knew they were thinking of it, the Premier was the first one that phoned me and said, we have your back, we have Selkirk Steel's back, we have Manitoba's back. So that really gives us a lot of hope. And if there's a silver lining that's going to come out of all this, it's that there's going to be patriotism in Canada that's never been seen before. We're going to be wearing the Canadian shirts, we're going to be flying the Canadian flags, and we're going to be working together as true Canadians. And we're going to go forward stronger than ever. Thank you, everybody.
Q&A here. All right. Oh. Yes. Yes. So the Buy Canadian legislation has to do with the broad set of government procurement that takes place, right? So, you know, when we're looking at anything that the government buys. But the thing is, the government has a bunch of projects already in flight, right? Including the schools, the new interchange on the perimeter, Highway 1 East, you know, and on and on and on, personal care homes. And so what I said to the clerk of the clerk of the Executive Council, the head of the Manitoba Civil Service, is I said, all these projects that are in flight, we need to make sure that it's Canadian steel that's going into these projects. The Buy Canadian legislation applies to us as a Manitoba government. But what I'm talking about is making sure that a contractor or a sub who gets hired to build a road or gets hired to work on a project, that they're going to be using Canadian steel too. Yeah, I think even talking to some of the folks here today, there has over the years been a cost to being cheap when we spend your tax dollars. Meaning we always want to get good value for money, but along the way sometimes that's led to contractors and subcontractors using steel that's brought in from other countries. Right now, in this moment of a trade war, an economic war on two fronts, we've got People's Republic of China on one side, we've got Donald Trump on the other side. It's really important that we think through how we build up this country and making sure that the whole supply chain, right, to standing up a new build or a new piece of hydro infrastructure or the equipment that we buy too, that is going to be supporting jobs in this country is what it's all about, and this province in particular. The reality is we're in a fight for manufacturing jobs in North America, and I am not going to let Donald Trump take manufacturing jobs away from Manitoba. And so we have to ensure that we be smart about the investments that we make. And if I have to spend a few dollars more to support a local business when I buy my lunch, I'm willing to do that right now. And if the government of Manitoba has to invest a few more dollars to ensure we're creating and sustaining steel jobs here in our province, then that's what we need to do right now. All of us are going to have to work together to get through this period of an economic challenge that we never asked for. But when it comes to patriotism, when it comes to the maple leaf and rallying around the flag, then I think every single Manitoban that I know is willing to step up. Oui. Oui, il y a beaucoup d'appui pour les entreprises ici dans le Manitoba. Aujourd'hui, nous avons annoncé 1,5 million de dollars pour essayer les entreprises pour planifier pour leur opération dans cette nouvel environnement. Puis, en même temps, le budget avait 200 millions de dollars pour des autres appuis pour les travailleurs, travailleuses et pour les entreprises en même temps. Et puis au niveau des politiques, nous avons lancé une politique pour dire que tout ce que nous achetons quand nous sommes en train de construire des hôpitaux, des soins pour les aînés, des centres de soins pour les aînés, pour les autres projets, des chemins, quoi que ce soit, que nous achèterons des produits canadiens.
Vous en pensez quoi des mesures gouvernementales fédérales? C'est quoi votre position par rapport à ce que le gouvernement fédéral met en place?
Bien, nous sommes là pour appuyer toutes les étapes que le gouvernement du Canada prendront pour appuyer les travailleurs et travailleuses tout partout dans le Canada, mais il faut toujours appuyer ceux qui travaillent ici dans le Manitoba. Et puis, il y a beaucoup de défis maintenant. Il y a les tarifs douaniers du Chine sur les produits agricoles. Puis, en même temps, ici à Selkirk, on verra le défi des tarifs douaniers du gouvernement de M. Trump. Alors, pour nous, il ne faut pas se tromper. Il faut travailler ensemble pour appuyer ceux qui travaillent et qui produisent les choses pour notre économie.
Est-ce que les annonces qu'il y a par rapport aux voitures canadiennes ont des effets ici au Manitoba, que ce soit à Selkirk ou à la province?
Bien, les autos coûteront plus cher. Puis M. Trump était supposé de baiser les coûts pour les Américains, mais il va les augmenter. Et puis, pour tout le monde ici dans le Manitoba, nous veulent une vie plus abordable. Alors, si on pourrait couper des impôts ou trouver des appuis pour le gouvernement, on va trouver des façons pour lancer ces appuis. Oui, merci. No. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're going to work together. Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's an important question. Like this year's budget is $200 million worth of loans and other potential supports, which is a huge amount of money. I think the thing that we're saying today is that the first step, always before we get to talking about grants or things like that, is let's keep businesses running by making sure the stuff that we buy here in Canada supports Canadian jobs. So the first step is for us to just change procurement and the supply chain and all these fancy terms that get thrown around when you watch the business shows. But what does it actually mean? It means that you pay taxes to your government, and when the government goes out and spends that money, shouldn't that money be spent on supporting jobs like yours? I say yes, it should. So that's the first step, is to just make sure that the things that we buy, the things that we build, the equipment that we acquire, that goes to supporting local jobs here. If push comes to shove and we get to a tougher situation, I can tell you that the Minister of Finance has a whole binder full of contingency plans that we can activate when it comes to financial supports. So we're going to be there to work together, absolutely. But I think the first thing, the best case scenario for us to say is let's just start to put our Manitoba economy on a war footing, which means if we're facing a trade war for real, then let's make sure that we're all banding together with a common cause, which is to keep hardworking Manitobans and their jobs safe from these unwarranted attacks.
That financial package, though, may not prevent the layoff now. You do know how significant those steps could be. Like, are you doing it? Will you be stopping layoffs?
Well, here's the thing. Donald Trump is trying to create uncertainty all over the world, in Canada included, and he's trying to make people panic so that he can get a deal that takes advantage of us. So the first thing that you got to have in a situation like that is a steady hand. And so I'm not willing to concede, I'm not willing to give up any jobs, I'm not willing to concede like, oh, the sky is falling and the world's going to end tomorrow, because that's exactly what Donald Trump wants to see happen. What I'm saying is you have a steady hand on the wheel at government, You have the resources in place to get activated if push comes to shove. But first and foremost, we're going to keep focused on the best case scenario, which is let's be smart about what we buy as a government to ensure that good paying jobs like the ones here at the Selkirk steel mill continue on uninterrupted.
There have been around 20 layoffs though at East and Automotive. These tariffs, steel exclusion tariffs, playing factors there. Are you disappointed that the company made that decision? What would your government do?
You know, I'm not going to criticize anyone except for Donald Trump. Everything was going well until he announced these tariffs. And by the way, how is a tariff? The guy got elected on trying to lower the cost of living in the States. He's supposed to lower the price of eggs. Instead, he's applying a tax on everything. How is that going to help the American people? So part of what we have to do is stick together as a country, stick together as Canada, and that's why we're saying like the response to steel tariffs, the response to auto tariffs has to be strong, because the American people have to feel the effect of how bad a mistake this is. And Americans are going to have to feel a rising cost of living in order for them to understand what a mistake Donald Trump is making right now. And so what's the role of a government like ours? Again, the provincial government, we're trying to make that case to the American audience, but every single Republican is too scared to speak up against Donald Trump right now. The Democrats, for sure, they're willing to criticize Trump all day, but they're not in power right now. So we'll keep making that case to the American public, but right now in Canada, we need to keep people working. We need to keep our economy going long enough for the American public to start to wake up to what Donald Trump is doing to harm not just our economy, but their economy too.
How would our government help those 20+ people?
Well, first and foremost, the federal government has announced work share and EI improvements. And then, of course, our government is there, whether it's through the resources in Jamie's department that we're standing up today, or whether it's a broader financial package to ensure that people are able to land on their feet. If you want to connect us, we'll be that much closer to being able to help those folks get back on their feet. So the terms are Prairie Green and Brady Road. So it's just a little mix-up there. I think, you know, I spoke quite extensively about this yesterday, and I'd point to the comments that I made there. It's an important question to be asked that we need to grapple with in the context of public safety in Manitoba. And when I was running for office, what I said to Manitobans is that I'm going to be tough on crime and I'm going to be tough on the causes of crime. And so what that means is that if somebody's out in the streets causing harm to themselves or others, you need to have law enforcement respond immediately in the moment. But the question of how do we make Manitoba or a city like Selkirk safer 10 years from now, safer 20 years from now, safer 30 years from now, is answered by education. It's answered by sports. It's answered by opportunities for young people. And so our government is tackling both things at once. We are investing in more funding for police. We're hiring more officers, both inside the city of Winnipeg and right across the province. We've provided direction to Crown attorneys to make sure that they're taking the community's safety into account when somebody applies for bail. And many other steps that the National Police Federation have said are the right ones when it comes to advancing safety for people right across Canada. But at the same time, we created a school food program in every single school in Manitoba, so that a kid who might be on the cusp of going down a negative path, they're going to keep showing up for school and we'll keep them on the positive path. We got supports for recreation centers, we've got supports for young people in all sorts of different areas. And What I would say to the Auditor General is that the statistics that they're pointing to are certainly things that we don't like to see, but the solution has to take the whole impact on the community in mind, which means that we continue to have accountability in the justice system while we address the root causes of crime through things like school food programs and greater opportunities for education in the future. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. Amazing.